You know that feeling, right? The meeting's over, everyone felt productive, decisions made, tasks handed out. Great.
Hmm.
And then maybe an hour later, or maybe the next day, you're trying to remember who actually agreed to do what, or trying to read that follow-up email.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorting through notes, piecing it all back together, it's a real-time sync. A bit of a headache, honestly.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving deep into something pretty cool. A technical solution designed to basically automate that whole messy post-meeting process.
Okay.
Our source is a request for information, an RFI, and it lays out this system built using Snowflake and large language models, LLMs.
Interesting combination. Snowflake and LLMs for meeting notes.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack how this thing works, how it takes, just raw meeting audio.
Like a recording.
Yeah, exactly, like an MP3 or WAV file, and turns it into actual structured information. Think automated follow-ups, searchable decisions, the works.
Got it. So taking the conversation and making it useful long after it's finished.
Precisely. You'll see how AI and these big data platforms come together to solve what's a really common problem for, well, pretty much everyone. Ready to dig in.
Let's do it. So the core idea, the vision they talk about, is talk, transcribe, take action, automate meeting intelligence.
I like that. Talk, transcribe, take action. It's
Yes.
catchy.
It is, and it really emphasizes that this isn't just about, hitting record. It's about getting real value out almost immediately. It's moving past just passive capture.
Right, active intelligence, not just a recording archive. So walk us through the main problems the system tackles.
Okay, so first off, the obvious one. Automatically transcribing the audio, turning the spoken words into text.
Standard transcription, okay.
But then, crucially, it goes further. It uses AI, the LLMs, to actually understand that text, to pull out the key decisions made, the specific action items like who needs to do what by when, and even generate summaries.
So it's not just a wall of text, it's structured output.
Exactly. And then it can even draft those follow-up emails for you using the LLMs. And all this valuable stuff, the transcript, the decisions, the actions, it all gets stored neatly inside Snowflake, the data cloud, so you can actually query it later.
Query your meeting outcomes. That's
Oh, yeah.
that's powerful.
It really is.
So architecturally, how does it flow? From, people talking to this queryable data.
Yeah, if you look at the bigger picture, it's a pretty logical flow, a pipeline. Starts with getting the audio in, that's ingestion,
Okay.
then turning it into text transcription, storing that text. Then the smart part, the LLM processing,
Where it extracts the actions and decisions.
right? And then generating outputs like those emails, and finally storing the structured actions in what they call an action store, ready to be used.
Got it. Ingestion, transcription, storage, LLM processing, output, action store. Makes sense. Let's start at the beginning then. Stage one, getting the audio in. How does that work?
So the RFI describes uploading the audio files, your MP3s, your WAVs, to what's called a Snowflake external stage. It's named at audio stage in the document.
An external stage, so like cloud storage,
Yeah.
S3 or something.
Exactly. Think of it as a secure landing zone, probably S3 or Azure Blob storage, integrated with Snowflake. It's efficient for handling these potentially large binary files before they even hit the main database tables.
Okay, that makes sense for big files. What happens after they land in that at audio stage?
Well, then they get loaded into a proper Snowflake table called raw audio files. This table holds the actual binary audio data.
The sound itself.
Yeah, the sound itself, along with important bits like a unique meeting GID, the original file name, and a timestamp. This is the starting point, the raw material.
So if I upload project kickoff meeting.wave, it lands there with an ID.
Precisely. That's his first structured stop inside Snowflake.
Okay, raw audio captured. Now for the first bit of AI magic, turning sound into text. The transcription, how's that done?
Right, this is where Whisper AI comes in. You've probably heard of it, OpenAI's transcription model.
Yep, it's very good.
It is. And the clever part here is how they use it. They don't necessarily ship the audio out to some external API. Instead, they use a Python function, which is registered inside Snowflake as a user-defined function, a UDF, using Snowpark Python.
Ah, Snowpark. So the Python code, the Whisper model, runs directly within the Snowflake environment.
Exactly. That's a big deal. It keeps the data close to the computation, which is great for security, governance, and often performance, too. This transcribe UDO UDF takes the binary audio from that table.
The raw audio files table.
Right. And just outputs the plain text transcription.
Very neat. Keeping it all within the platform. So where does that text go?
That transcribed text then gets stored in another table called meeting transcripts. And crucially, it's linked back using that same meeting JID and timestamp.
So you always know which audio file it came from.
Always. So, the system takes the audio and spits out text like, okay, team, thanks for joining. Raj, you'll finalize the SSO plan by Friday, that kind of thing.
Got it. Raw transcription, neatly stored and linked. Now, the next step seems critical, turning that potentially long transcript into something actually actionable. This is the LLM part, right?
Precisely. This is the brain, you could say. Here, they use Snowflake's built-in EXTLLM function.
EXTLLM. Okay, so that's Snowflake's way of calling out to large language models.
Yes, exactly. It lets you invoke LLMs, could be OpenAI's models, Anthropic's, others directly from within your SQL code, operating on data already inside Snowflake.
Okay, and what does it ask the LLM to do with the transcript?
The prompt engineering is key here, of course, but the core instruction described is basically read this transcript and extract the decisions made and the action items assigned.
Wow. So you're querying your transcript using an LLM from SQL. That feels futuristic, but it's here.
It's definitely a powerful integration. And think about the security implications. Again, you're not necessarily moving your potentially sensitive meeting transcripts out to a separate AI service. You're bringing the AI to the data.
That's a really important point, especially with confidential meeting content. But, LLMs can sometimes hallucinate or get things slightly wrong. How does the system handle accuracy? Does the RFI mention validation?
That's a fair question, and it's always a concern with LLMs. The RFI source itself doesn't go deep into specific validation steps, but you'd absolutely expect a production system to have checks.
Like what?
Well, you might have confidence scores from the LLM, maybe thresholds below which items get flagged for human review, or for really critical decisions, perhaps a mandatory quick human check on the extracted items.
Okay.
But even just getting the structured output is a huge leap. It makes any review process way faster than reading the whole transcript.
True. So, assuming the LLM does its job, it processes the text and pulls out structured info, not just more text, but actual data fields.
Exactly right. It's not just summarizing. It's extracting specific pieces of information and structuring them. So instead of a paragraph, you might get distinct fields like action item, complete SSO integration, owner, Sri Sivakumar Ramar, due date, July 5th. Decision. Proceed with Okta.
Okay, I see.
That structured information is what populates, say, a decision summary field or similar structured columns. It becomes machine-readable, queryable data.
That is incredibly powerful, taking unstructured chat and making it structured, queryable data. So what about closing the loop? The follow-up emails, tracking the actions.
Right, so once you have those structured actions and decisions, the system can use EXT-LLM. Again,
the same function.
Yeah, the same capability. This time, it might be prompted to generate the body of a follow-up email based on, say, the extracted action item summary.
So it could write something like, "Hi team, quick recap. Raj owns the SSO integration due July 5th.
Exactly that. Or maybe use the full transcript for more context if needed. It really speeds up that whole communication piece after the meeting.
I can see that. And where do the actions themselves get stored for tracking?
Alongside generating emails, the system logs those key decisions and action items into a dedicated table. The RFI calls it meeting actions.
Meeting actions.
And this table would store things like the meeting EID, the structured decision summary, maybe it's JSON, or separate columns like owner action, due date, and a timestamp like generated on. Creates a nice, clear audit trail.
And because it's in a Snowflake table, you can query it.
Now you're getting it. That's the beauty. It's just data in Snowflake.
So I could actually write SQL, like select action item, due date from meeting actions where owner Raj.
Absolutely. You could find all tasks assigned to Raj across all meetings logged in the system, or find all decisions made about a specific project, say Project Phoenix.
Wow.
An example record might look something like meeting GID, M123 action item, finalize SSO integration, owner, Sri Sivakumar Ramar, due date, 2025-0705. Imagine the visibility that gives a team lead or a PM.
That's not just saving time writing emails. That's like a central nervous system for team commitments and decisions, a real game changer for accountability.
It really moves towards that, yes.
So let's zoom out. For you, our listener, what's the big takeaway here? This isn't just, cool tech blinking in a data center, right?
Not at all. I mean, the tech is cool, let's be honest. But the real point is that this is a deeply practical application of AI combined with a modern data platform. It's tackling a genuine everyday business problem, the productivity drain after meetings.
Yeah, think about the hours saved. Not just your own time trying to remember stuff and write emails, but the collective time. No more digging through old notes or email threads to find out what was decided 3 months ago.
And it boosts accountability, right? When actions, owners, and due dates are clearly captured and easily searchable, things are less likely to slip through the cracks.
Definitely. And there's another angle too, knowledge management.
Explain that.
Well, all that information from meetings, decisions, context, rationales, potentially it usually just evaporates, or lives scattered in people's notebooks.
True.
This system turns that transient conversation into a persistent, searchable knowledge base. Think about onboarding someone new they could potentially query past decisions relevant to their project.
That's a great point. Accessing historical context instantly, or even analyzing trends. Are we constantly getting stuck on the same kinds of issues in our project meetings? You could potentially query for patterns.
So what really stands out here is the seamlessness. How Snowflake's data handling the external stages, Snowpark UDFs for Python, the native EXT LLM calls, blends right into AI capabilities like Whisper for transcription and LLMs for understanding.
Yeah, it's a prime example of that trend we're seeing.
Yeah.
AI and data living together, not in separate silos. The intelligence is right there, on the platform where your data already resides. It's a powerful combination.
Okay, so quick recap then. We've seen how this system can take spoken words from a meeting, run them through transcription and AI analysis all within Snowflake, and output structured, actionable data decisions, tasks, owners, plus automate things like follow-up emails.
From sound to searchable, actionable insights.
Pretty impressive stuff.
Definitely. And it leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on.
Go for it.
Consider this. A system like this doesn't just capture what was said. That's just transcription. It fundamentally changes how you interact with the information generated in meetings.
How so?
Well, instead of conversations being these temporary things you try to remember, they become part of this permanent, queryable knowledge base. Dialogue becomes data. So the provocative question is, what happens next? What new possibilities open up when all your team's important conversations are instantly indexed, searchable, analyzable? How could you truly leverage that collective intelligence beyond just remembering who does what? What does that mean for decision-making, for innovation, for how an organization learns?
Turning talk into a strategic asset. That's definitely something to think about.